Okay, here's an analysis of the infamous Event 201. This was a simulation which has occurred coincidentally just days before the coronavirus was announced. This is part 4 of their simulation, which was nothing more than an industrialist feeding frenzy by the Wall Street investment class on how to transform society into a totalitarian prison planet and cash in at the same time. And unless we, the people, do something about it, they are going to get their prison planet, and you are the prisoners. So this is part 4 of their simulation exercise, dealing with in this part, they deal with the clamp down of human communications. And they talk about arresting people who, are stepping out of line and talking and saying things they shouldn't say. People like myself who are pointing out the truth about their little biowarfare game. Now, how did these industrialists know that in a few days, the thing that they have simulated came true? How did they know that? Well, these particular people that you're going to see, they didn't know. Maybe one of them does. I'm going to say that the guy from Johns Hopkins probably might have had a little foreknowledge. He's the MC of all these stooges, of all these tools. But they're just reading scripts, these people that you're about to watch, all of them. They're just reading scripts. You have actors in the beginnings, and then later on in the discussion, you have supposedly real industrialists, but they're all just reading scripts. And what you need to think of as you're watching this thing is that the people who are behind these attacks certainly set these people up to read the script. So if we could find out the person who actually wrote the script, and actually it's the reason why is because everything is done through compartmentalization. So, it's possible for a handful of people can get tens of thousands of people if there's a proper series of compartmentalization and a command structure, a hierarchical command structure. You can get 10,000 people to do what you want, and those 10,000 people will have no idea, A, who's telling them what to do and what they're doing. They won't even know. So we have to get to try to find out who is the one who sort of steered, not even the person who wrote the script, because it's the person who advised the person who actually wrote the script that these people are reading, because it's that person that sort of steered this thing. Well, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, but as you watch this thing, you are seeing their raw, naked agenda right there on camera, for anyone with a reasonable intelligence to see with your own eyes. So this is not a simulation. What you're about to see is a plan. This is the agenda. This is their Christmas shopping list of totalitarian. This is what they want in order to control you. Okay, and this is coming from like these intelligence groups. Many of them are privatized. Many of them would be under the command structure of the CIA or the Mossad creeps, who are the ones who are pulling the strings on this world. So let's begin this Event 201. Sponsored by Johns Hopkins, Michael Bloomberg School of Medicine, by the way, by the World.
Okay, we will now advance 3 weeks to the fourth and final meeting of the Pandemic Emergency Board on December 18th, 2019.
Okay, thank you for reconvening, and let's get an update from Dr. Rivers.
In the last 3 weeks, case numbers have continued to grow exponentially. We now have an estimated 4.2 million cases.
I'm going to stop it periodically. Notice how they get like this childlike waif. This way, like there couldn't be anything nefarious here, because this is like they're trying to, the conspirators, the criminal, the CIA or Mossad creeps who are behind this thing. They prop up a young girl up there. They're calling her a doctor, and this way, young people say, "Well, it's a young person, so we got to trust it." She doesn't even know what she's saying, and she's repeating the same thing over again. She repeats that we need more surveillance in order to get a handle on this thing. Listen to what she says here. She's just reading the script, though. Here we go.
And 240,000 deaths. Almost every country is now reporting cases, and those who aren't may simply not have the resources to conduct surveillance.
There you go. So we need more surveillance, of course. This is Johns Hopkins. This is the establishment line always. They're never going to say, oh, no, we need to give people more freedom. No, it's less freedom, more surveillance. Okay, let's continue.
We don't see any change in the rate of rapid spread, and models estimate that we could have more than 12 million cases and close to 1 million deaths by mid-January.
Now remember, this was just days before the very first reported breakout of the coronavirus. So, Joy, they really did a good job at predicting, right down to the economic data. Here we go.
We're not sure how big this could get, but there's no end in sight. Financial markets are universally down by 15% or more on the year. Fear of a catastrophic pandemic and uncertainty about the capacity for governments to respond and remain viable are fueling investor uncertainty.
We have called this meeting today because of major strategic problems.
Now, you got to understand, Johns Hopkins is very closely intertwined with the CIA, so much so that the students at Johns Hopkins have been protesting because of the massive recruitment effort that goes on by the CIA, which is just miles away from it. Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore, and the CIA is right there, and in Langley, Virginia. And through the years, a lot of spooks come out. So it's incestuous intertwining. And Johns Hopkins, I would say, would be one of these places that are very CIA-oriented, let's say.
Around communication that are happening globally. And here's a media debate that just happened on air today.
Now remember, this is a simulation that they did few days before the breakout, and the simulation that they guess just so happens to come true. Boy, they're so good at simulating, aren't they? And so they put these simulations out and they've been doing this for a long time. And whenever you see they do a simulation, they did this on 9/11, and then oops, it's a simulation of planes slamming into the towers. And then that day that they were doing the simulation of planes actually slammed into the towers that they said they were going to do in the simulation. So it's not a simulation. It's And then in the London subway bombing, they were doing a simulation in the exact same stations that got bombed that morning, and then those stations get bombed. They say, wow, what a coincidence. We were doing a simulation of a bombing in that station, and then some terrorists bombed it. Isn't that a coincidence? No, it's not a coincidence.
Issue. Today we were running an exercise for a company, bearing in mind I'm now in the private sector, and we sat everybody down in the city, 1,000 people involved in the whole organization, but the crisis team. And the most peculiar thing was we based our scenario on the simultaneous attacks on the underground and mainline station. So we had to suddenly switch an exercise from fictional to real. And one of the first things is get that bureau number. When you have a list of people missing, tell them. And it took a long time.
Just to get this right, you were actually working today on an exercise that envisioned virtually this scenario.
Almost precisely. I was up until 2 o'clock this morning because it's our job, my own company, Visor Consultants. We specialize in helping people to get their crisis management response. How do you jump from slow time thinking to quick time doing? And we chose a scenario with their assistance, which is based on a terrorist attack because they're very close to a property occupied by Jewish businessmen. They're in the city, and there are more American banks in the city than there are in the whole of New York. A logical thing to do.
Is your simulation.
Alarming news emerging from social media companies today about the CAPS pandemic. Twitter and Facebook are reporting they've identified and deleted a disturbing number of accounts dedicated to spreading disinformation about the outbreak. For more on this...
Oh, thanks, Twitter and Facebook for helping us through this terrible time of disinformation that we're having, that you have nothing to do with it.
We go to our correspondent,
save us, Mark Zuckerberg, from disinformation.
Alina Parks.
Chen, these accounts were created by several state-sponsored groups intending to sow political discord, and some individuals are seemingly seeking to gain financial advantages.
Okay, so they're saying that people that are countering the official narrative are doing it for money, right? I could safely say I've never made a penny fighting these fascist scumbag.
Violence against healthcare workers and minority populations has been increasing. A recent riot highlights the real danger in these posts.
So what they're saying is that they're characterizing the disinformation for people like me as endangering the health of healthcare workers. No. That's not the nature of the disinformation. The nature of the truth that people like me are talking about is how you guys are perpetrating a biowarfare attack against China and the American people, ultimately for the purposes of economic warfare and control, totalitarian control here at home. That's what we're saying. We're not stirring up hatred against healthcare workers, you lying, filthy scumbags.
Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet.
Yeah, you mean like the stuff coming from the United States government, like that disinformation and the mainstream media? You mean that misinformation and disinformation, which is almost a universal, like hermetically sealed, military-grade disinformation?
In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
Yeah, we got to shut it down. This way you can't exchange information with each other. Yeah, that's a good.
Thank you, Catalina.
Thank you, Catalina, for reading a script of the globalist scum. Thanks, Catalina. Now, out with you and bring in 3 more idiots, stooges, tools who don't know what they're reading and are going to read more of this bullshit. Hold on to your seats when you see these next 3 idiots.
For this, we are joined by experts on crisis communications and social media. Kevin McAleese and Sarah Lee.
To me, it is clear countries need to make strong efforts to manage both mis- and disinformation. We know social media companies are working around the clock to combat these disinformation campaigns.
Oh, they're working around the clock to combat disinformation. Yeah, sure. No, they're working around the clock like Google to completely block access to the only credible information that's on the internet, which is coming from alternative sources. If it's a corporation that's got more than 100 million in assets, sorry, it's not credible information. The only credible information is coming from independent sources. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, who looks like Dr. Kevorkian, I don't trust Fauci for shit.
Pandemic. But it's not just trolls who are spreading the fake news.
Yeah, trolls like in the United States government.
It's often political leaders themselves. Who's to judge what's real or not? Would we trust every government to separate truth from lies?
No, we don't trust any government ever for anything. In fact, we mistrust them extraordinarily amount of mistrust for good reason, because they don't deserve trust. They've earned their mistrust, well-earned mistrust.
I think this is more than just keeping the bad information out. It's also about making sure real public health information reaches the public. News is found from outlets other than social media. News organizations, public health groups, and companies.
Companies. He doesn't want to use the word corporations. So he goes, so companies. That's where you should get your news from, companies, like Johnson & Johnson, 3M, DuPont, Monsanto. Those are the companies that are going to give you the reliable information that you can make good decisions on to support your future. Yeah, not.
Need to help people take the right actions to protect themselves by promoting accurate, real information about the outbreak.
Yeah? No. Well, wrong.
Okay, for more on this, we're going to get...
Okay, Tom Inglesby from the CIA, University Johns Hopkins.
From our communications expert, Dr. Sell.
Now we have another communications expert, and watch this one. This is the one that tells you that, it's a good idea to arrest people who are giving information about coronavirus, yeah.
Global health experts have highlighted that dis and misinformation are wreaking havoc on the CAPS response. Health work.
And notice how they get these young women. I mean, that they're going for archetypes of credibility, archetypes that could maybe appeal to young people or something. Or this person wouldn't be evil. Well, yeah, no, I don't think so. And you can tell she's just reading a teleprompter, so she doesn't even know what she's reading. And yet, this is probably a doctor at Johns Hopkins. I'm sure she's a medical student at Johns Hopkins. And when you're a medical student at Johns Hopkins, or you're in their political program, you're a total total tool. You're looking to get into the club of the this like sort of like establishment globalist club that screws everyone over, and you're happy to be in the club. So you're not going to make waves. You're not going to ask any questions. You are going to do as you're told, and watch how she does exactly what she's told. She doesn't know what she's saying though, but I do.
Workers are under attack in a number of locations due to rumors that they are purposely spreading the disease. And response efforts in many places have had to be...
So she just said that health workers are getting attacked because of people like me that are spreading disinformation, that health workers are spreading the disease, and so this way, and this is how they frame it. So what they do is, it's a bait and switch operation. What they do is they frame it as a public health danger, that alternative information about what's actually happening, like the truthful information about what's actually happening. Well, that they frame that as being against public health workers. No, that's nobody's saying that in the alternative news. What we're saying, some analysts are saying that the United States government and the bioweapons research plants that they have all around the world, they're the ones who are behind this biowarfare attack against China. We're not talking about nurses. We're not trying to create problem with the healthcare workers. Nope. So don't frame it like that. Frame it like what you're actually, and this is how this is why you need to look for the people who wrote this script, because they're so careful to get close to what it is that they have to articulate what they want out of it. So they approach this thing from the top down. So the idea is, what do they want? Well, they want to clamp down on information. They want a total full spectrum dominance of your internet and your communications ability. They want to be able to arrest you if you disagree with them, and they want to clamp down on your free speech. And then they have to frame it in terms of, because if there is free speech, then healthcare workers, they could be endangered. Bullshit. That's not what's going on here.
Suspended because of concerns around violence. Pharmaceutical companies are being accused of introducing the CAPS virus so they can make money on drugs and vaccines.
No. We know that pharmaceutical companies are bad actors, but that's not, again, you see how carefully they're doing this. It's not pharmaceutical companies, dear, that we're accusing. So stop reading your script and think. We're accusing the U.S. bioterror programs that are well established. We have over 13 or grade 4, level 4 bioweapons labs disguised as bio-research facilities. And we have hundreds of grade level 3 bioweapons labs. Scientists from the Federation of American Scientists are saying we don't need this, and scientists throughout the world are saying that there is only one purpose for these these plants, and these are these weapons research facilities. It's not to research ways to help us. It's to research bioweapons to kill us, and there is no other purpose, and there is no medical purpose for a level 4 facility except to create bioterror agents to terrorize the world. There is no other purpose, dear. So get it right, sister. Here we go. Listen to the stooge, the tool.
And have seen public faith in their products plummet. Unrest due to false rumors and divisive messaging is rising and is exacerbating spread of the disease as levels of trust fall and people
we already don't trust the government, dear.
Stop cooperating with response efforts. This is a massive problem, one that threatens governments and trusted institutions.
There are no trusted institutions, darling. We don't trust our institutions, in case you haven't noticed.
Polls have shown that mis- and disinformation are ubiquitous. At least 90% of the public has been exposed to these messages.
Polls have shown that disinformation is ubiquitous. What? That's not even good writing. That script is so... What? So they ask people, is disinformation ubiquitous? Well, yes, it is. Well, if it was ubiquitous, and how would you know it was disinformation? If you were the nature of disinformation is you get fooled by it, so then you wouldn't think it was disinformation. So who are you polling? You're polling CNN anchors? Well, yeah, they're going to say whatever you want them to say. That's just absolute idiocy.
At the same time, misinformation messages come from a variety of sources.
Like the United States government, the CDC, the National Institutes of Health, NAID. I mean, these are bioterror. These people are so up to their ears in developing some of the world's most dangerous human pathogens that are airborne, highly pathogenic, easily transmissible. That's what they do. That's all they do. That's all they've been doing for 40 years is developing bioweapons to be used against people when the time is right. And apparently the time is right now.
Government officials. And often governments are contradicting one another. We know that social media is now the primary way that many people get their news. So interruptions to these platforms could curb the spread of misinformation, but could also limit access to information from legitimate sources.
Like CNN, right? And the United States government, and Mike Pence.
Health ministries around the world are attempting to combat mis and disinformation by amplifying public health messaging through social and traditional media. But they are being outpaced by false and misleading information. National governments are considering or have already implemented a range of interventions to combat misinformation. Some governments have taken control of national access to the internet. Others...
that's good. Taking control of access to the internet. That's what they want. That's the whole... you can see the agenda in every sentence that these tools, because that's all these people are. They don't know what they're reading. They're reading off teleprompters. They're not even doing a good job at reading it. This stuff is so like fifth grade, like amateurish level stuff. These people are idiots, and the fact that they can get away with this, the controllers of these tools, they don't know what they're doing. No, who's behind it? Who profits from it? Who benefits from that?
Are censoring websites and social media content, and a small number have shut down internet access completely to prevent the spread of misinformation.
Yeah, shut it down so that we can't communicate with it. This is what they want. This is what an authoritarian government wants. They want to block access. They want, and what they'll do is they're claiming, oh, it's the people that are begging for it. The people want us to shut down the internet. The people want us to tell them to stay in their homes. The people are begging for us to throw them in jail if they step out of line. This is what you're begging for. They always say that you're begging for it. Oh, they're begging us, so we're just going to do as what, and here's a poll that says 99% of the people, 99% of you are saying, yes, please, shut down our internet, ban free speech, just prevent us from communicating with one another so we can compare notes.
Penalties have been put in place for spreading harmful falsehoods, including arrests.
Including arrests. So, if you, and that'll be me, it'll be targeted for people like me who are warning you of these people. So anyone who, basically what she's saying is anyone that's warning the people about our little bioterror plan, we all want to arrest them, and they make it claim that you want me arrested. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some people in the deep state that are going to say, oh yeah, arrest that guy, but don't you believe it. People aren't that stupid.
Other countries have taken a more moderate approach and have focused on promoting fact-checking efforts and working...
Fact-checking, like Snopes. You look in Snopes, and if it's slightly against the official line, it doesn't matter how nakedly what a lie Snopes is. Snopes is going to say, "Oh yeah, the government never did anything wrong," and the Snopes, there's nothing. If you get your fact checking from Snopes, congratulations, you are a gullible idiot. But you know what? Not many people still believe this bullshit. They're telling us that there's a lot of people that believe Snopes, but nope.
Working with traditional media outlets, yet these approaches are limited in scope.
Yeah, because nobody believes Snopes, because it's a fucking U.S. government psyop. That's why, maybe.
Social media companies report that they're doing all they can to limit the use of their platforms for nefarious or misleading purposes.
Like Harry Vox.
But this is a technically difficult problem, and false, misleading, or half-true information is difficult to sort without limiting potentially true messages.
Oh, like the U.S. government's truth.
The bottom line is that members of the public no longer know who to trust.
Yeah, no, we do. We know we don't trust the United States government. That's one thing we know. We don't trust the U.S. government, that's for sure.
Both the misinformation and the measures to control it have led to a crisis of confidence.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Oh, you did your job, dear. Look, the bottom line is that it's not looking good, and people are going to have to wake up, and people are going to have to spread these analyses around, because this stuff is really clear and plain to see. But the problem is that not many people actually are seeing these things, because Google is blocking access to them. Google right now is a massive scrubbing operation. The purpose of Google is to prevent you from getting access to factual information about the world, and instead replacing it with MSNBC, CNN, Fox, and NBC, ABC, the usual liars. It's an establishment media, and so Google is a scrubbing operation. It is useless for political information. It's useless. Google, yeah, you could get ideas about home decorating ideas, or how to certain, if you want to learn how to, trim your dog with a pair of dog trimmers, that's fine. You want to take care of your poodle. You want to take certain math questions, maybe that'll be Google. That's about it. But if it's slightly political, you can forget it. Google is a massive scrubbing operation. So, for example, most people in China are saying that it's the United States government that's behind this coronavirus. Good luck finding one single hit on Google. They've completely scrubbed that. So you have 1.4 billion people saying it's the United States government that did that. And then if you type in, Chinese accuse U.S. of it, all you're going to get is U.S. accuses China of it sneaking out of the lab in Wuhan. Didn't sneak out of the Wuhan lab. It was planted there. This is a U.S. bioweapon, and anyone who's saying it slipped out of the lab doesn't know what they're talking about. So this is going to be a part of a series here. I urge people to look at the highlights event of Event 201, the highlights video of it. You can just type in Event 201 to get it. It's very scary what they have in store for you. And for the world. It's an orgy, a Wall Street orgy. It's an intelligence agency orgy of surveillance and clamp down on your freedoms. That's what it's about. And stay tuned, because we're going to get more. We're going to get more about this.